Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. My name is Nick Marro with Occupy Fantasy. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. As always, I'm here to help you break down tonight's MLB DFS main slates on both DraftKings and FanDuel. If you haven't already, please like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel. It helps us get more free content like this out to you on a regular basis. Also, if you're not a member of Occupy Fantasy, check out the links in the description below to become one today. We got a Friday 14-game slate here, and there's a decent chance this is the last MLB slate breakdown video for the regular season. Not 100% sure on that, but pretty sure. So if it is, just want to thank everyone for tuning in throughout the season. Again, you can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. I should be back once NBA regular season comes around to do similar breakdowns for that sport as well. But yeah, just been a great season. Very grateful for all the comments, the likes, the subscriptions, etc. Maybe we'll do some stuff during the playoffs. I'm not really sure, but feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. Always happy to talk baseball with each and every one of you. But without further ado, let's get into this slate here. I mean, we got 14 games to get through. I am still technically on vacation. I'm down Cape Cod, so I do have notes for all the games. I'm not going to be going over stats throughout the video, so this should stay under 30 minutes, even with it being 14 games, but that's a lot to cover. So what I do have here is a notepad file up. As always, I'm going to list my favorite pitching options and stack options, and then at the end of the video we can kind of recap everything. I do have an iPad here with my notes, so if you see me looking around, it's not because I'm not paying attention or trying to present well to you. It's really just out of necessity. My setup on vacation, not quite as solid as what I have going on at home. So let's get into this here. Again, 14-game slate, first game on the board tonight. Before we get into that, I do just want to touch on Mookie Betts. I consider him to be the best arm on the slate. Best bat on the slate against Brandon Williamson. The Dodgers are profiling as one of the top stacks in the model, no surprise there. Williamson much worse against righties than he is lefties. Some of the better bats in that Dodgers order do hit from the left side, but Betts, he is as good as it gets on the slate. I love him here. Really like Max Muncy and JD Martinez if he's in there as well. Those are the top priorities for the Dodgers. But yeah, Mookie Betts, not only does he get you that home run upside, he can steal a base or two. He can stretch a double to a triple, etc. Just an outstanding option, and he has multi-position eligibility on DK now, second base and outfield. Pretty sure it's the same over on FanDuel as well, but you do have the utility spot over there. So regardless, going to be getting to a lot of Mookie Betts tonight. He is expensive, but I do consider him to be the best bet on the board, and the model agrees. So enough about Mookie. Let's get into the game by game here. First game on the slate, we have Gerrit Cole on the mound for the New York Yankees, taking on Grayson Rodriguez and the Baltimore Orioles. So clicking over to the pitcher model, we see Gerrit Cole ranking 4th in OF index. No surprise to me there. I'm going to have to list Cole here. Versus Baltimore. It is a tough matchup, but it's tough not to like his upside, and I think we see that reflected in his ownership. 17% owned on DK, a little bit lower owned on FanDuel, only 5%, but if that number doesn't come up, he is going to be one of my favorite tournament plays. Cole, 3.34 xFIP this season, 27.4% K rate, holding opposing hitters to just a 280 WOBA. Tough matchup here against the hot Baltimore offense, but outstanding upside. On the other side, we have Grayson Rodriguez, one of the more talented young arms in baseball. But he's kind of learning on the job. So he started the season on the major league roster, struggled. They sent him back down. He got the call back up, and he's looked good. Obviously, the K stuff's there. He does have a high ceiling, but at the same time, he's having trouble spotting some of those pitches, still allowing a lot of power, allowing a 242 ISO, 390 WOBA to opposing hitters, but he does have that 26% K rate. So the news here is Aaron Judge is likely back for the Yankees tonight. Obviously makes this a more difficult matchup. Really is the anchor of that batting order, and we saw how badly they struggled with Judge out of the lineup over the past couple months. So that is a sight for sore eyes as a Yankees fan. But yeah, it definitely doesn't help Rodriguez at all in this matchup. And I really don't have much interest in Orioles bats against Cole. As far as the Yankees go, they're kind of just outside the top 10 for me. And I think if we check the stacks model, we're going to see them, 12th in OF index, 10th in team ISO. So they're not terrible here, but at the same time, it's tough to call them a priority. I'll go ahead and list them. Yankees, first G-Rod, but they are certainly boom or bust. So you're only going to be using them in high-risk, large field type contests. Not really going to call anything they're a priority. Moving into the next game on the board, we have Zach Wheeler on the mound for the Philadelphia Phillies, taking on Mitch Keller in Pittsburgh. Couple talented arms here. Zach Wheeler we see popping at third in the model, only 9,800 on DK. Really do like his price over there. We see that reflected in the 25% ownership. And then Mitch Keller. I mean, another talented arm. Not a great matchup for him. He has been inconsistent. I certainly think Wheeler is the safer of the two, but you're getting a major ownership discount. They are priced similarly on both sites. So Wheeler, 347 xFIP, 27% K rate, holding opposing hitters to a 291 WOBA this season. Mitch Keller, inconsistent, but that 25% K rate is solid. And Philly K's more than 24% of the time against right-handed pitching. So the Phillies lefties here, guys like Schwarber, Harper, they have some upside as one-off plays, but I really don't have any interest in Phillies bats. I don't mind getting to some Keller in large field tournaments. Then on the other side, I really have zero interest in Pittsburgh bats. I really do like Zach Wheeler. So I'm going to go ahead and write down Zach Wheeler. First Pitt, excellent everywhere. I would play him in all types of contests tonight. He is going to be popular, though. And then Mitch Keller, high risk, boom bust. But he does have upside at very low ownership compared to some of the other top options. And then we're really not going to pull any stacks from this game just because we do like the pitchers. Moving into the next game, we have Lucas Giolito making his debut for the Angels, taking on Kevin Gausman and the Toronto Blue Jays. Giolito first start with the Angels here following a trade. Also sent Ronaldo Lopez to the Angels for prospects. 433 xFIP, 9.74 K per 9 for Lucas Giolito here. He is very much boomer bust. Reasonably priced, but a terrible matchup against the Blue Jays. So I don't even want to list him personally. I think he is popping fairly high in the model. Now, outside the top 10, I don't think we need to get to him there. But at the same time, I'm not rushing the Blue Jays bats. I do respect Giolito enough to know that he probably caps their upside. On the other side of things, though, we have Kevin Gausman, 291 xFIP, 33% K rate. LA striking out nearly 24% of the time against right-handed pitching. So not really a surprise to me that he is the top OF index play in the model by more than 2 points. Pretty reasonably priced on both sides. Going to be extremely expensive. Not extremely expensive, but he is one of the most expensive arms on the board. But I think if you can get to Gausman versus the Angels, he's probably your play in cash games in low risk contests, and I do really like his upside. If you could get different with your bats, I think he's one of the better arms available. So Gausman versus LA is excellent everywhere. Just excellent numbers as I just read through. Really do like his upside here. And outside of Ohtani, this Angels offense is still banged up. Guys like Rendon and Trout are still out. So really nice spot for Gausman, who has been absolutely outstanding. And like I said, don't really have much interest in Giolito. Not really crazy about those Blue Jays bats either. So we can move on to the next game. We have Xavier Curry and the Guardians taking on Touki Toussaint and the Chicago White Sox. So this is kind of an interesting one. So Curry, no interest in him at all here. He's pretty much a bullpen arm, likely to serve as the opener. Could go maybe two. It would be a bit surprising to see him go 3 innings, but he is capable. But yeah, this is probably a bullpen game for the Guardians, so I really don't have any interest in the arms there. And then Toussaint, he's on a short leash as well, probably more likely to see 4 or 5 innings pitched. There's really no upside when you're facing the Guardians. They have a sub 20% K rates against opposing pitchers, so I don't know that I'm going to have much interest in the bats here on either side. Checking out the stack model, I mean, we do see Cleveland ranking 7th in OF Index, so I think if they could get to Toussaint early, they do have upside. It is a soft bullpen for the White Sox, so I'll go ahead and list the Guardians as a top stack option, but they are very much boom bust versus the White Sox bullpen. So they really need to chase Toussaint early, so this one could go one of 2 ways. I mean, if they get him out of there, they're putting runs up on him, it should go really well. But if he goes 5 and he's effective, you're going to get the better arms out of that bullpen. So really risky spot there, but there is some upside as the model is showing us. But like I said, bullpen game for the Guardians. Don't really have much interest in White Sox bats, so we can move right into the next game here. We have Mackenzie Gore on the mound for the Washington Nationals, taking on Max Scherzer in the New York Mets. Gore, 373 xFIP, not bad. Pretty high K rate as well, I think around 26%. Not a good matchup with the Mets here, but Gore does have a high ceiling. The 7,300 price tag on DK, I don't think it's insane to consider him. 8,900 over on FanDuel, but on a massive 14-game slate like this, I just don't think we need to get that creative. But I will say I do respect him enough not to be rushing to Mets bats. On the other side, we have Scherzer on the mound for the Mets. Struggled to start the year, but still 27% K rate on the season makes him somewhat appealing as a DFS play. The issue is Washington is a very low K rate against right-handed pitching, and Scherzer is allowing a 200 ISO to opposing hitters. So I'm not going to get to much Max Scherzer here. He is drawing pretty solid ownership over on DK, though, at 9,400. So decent play. Don't know that we need to force it, but at the same time, I really don't have much interest in any of the bats here. So let me just verify that. Yeah, we see the Mets floating right outside the top 10. They do have some upside against Gore. Then the Nationals way towards the bottom. So tricky spot. I mean, I could list Gore, I could list Mets, but I'd rather just leave them both out on a 14-game slate. I think we do have better spots. Moving into the next game here, we have Adrian Hauser on the Milwaukee Brewers taking on Yonny Chirinos and the Atlanta Braves. So Hauser, he's been better than expected. I'm a bit surprised to see the Braves aren't higher in the model right now. Second in team total, 12th in team WOBA, but 17th in OF index. Keep an eye on this one. If they climb throughout the day, I am actually very interested in the Braves here. But Hauser's been better than expected. Just keep an eye on the model. And if we do see them climb closer to the top 10, I'd be more comfortable loading up on them here. They are going to draw decent ownership. Only seeing 19% aggregate on DK, 25 on FanDuel, so lower owned than we usually see these Braves. While Hauser has been half decent, he's really not an arm that we need to fear stacking against. So a bit surprised the model doesn't agree with me yet, but I do like the Braves bats there. Then on the other side, we have Yonny Chirinos on the hill for the Braves. You may remember him from his days with the Tampa Bay Rays. Decent arm, but likely on a short leash. Could give way to an Atlanta bullpen game if he's struggling at all early. The thing is, they have a pretty good bullpen, so I don't know that I'm going to want to get to many Milwaukee bats. They do have some upside, but it's likely capped once they get into the pen. And then, like I said, I really do like the Braves here. They have a very high team total, but I would like to see them climb a bit in the model before I got to them aggressively. Moving into the next game here, we have Sonny Gray and the Minnesota Twins taking on Brady Singer and the Kansas City Royals. So Gray, 3.81 xFIP, holding opponents to a sub 0.80 ISO this season. So he's done an excellent job keeping the ball in the park. I don't mind some Sonny Gray tonight. I don't know that he's popping all that highly in the model. I think it's mostly the price. Just not a ton of K upside, 9,300 on DK, 10-1 over on FanDuel. But it is a nice matchup here against the Royals, so I don't think it's insane to maybe consider some Sonny Gray. I'll go ahead and write him down as a high-risk only option. Versus KC, high risk only. But on the other side, Brady Singer, really no interest in him. Low K rate, allowing a 186 ISO to opposing hitters. He's been very volatile. This Twins offense is going to rank as one of the best on the board. I'm going to go ahead and write them down right now. Twins versus Singer, high ceiling. Really do like them a lot here. So we click over to the stacks page of the model. We see the Twins come in third in OF index, fourth in team ISO, eighth in team MOBA, fourth in team total. So they're top 10 in every single category. Really do like their upside here. Singer allows a lot of power. Mostly been pitching to contact. His K rate's way down this season. So really the Twins just check all the boxes. And they're very cheap. And they're not too popular. We have some very popular stacks in Coors Field and a few other places on this slate. So for me personally, really like the Twins. I like to see that the model agrees. That is the one piece of this game I'm really rushing to get to. I don't mind some shares of Sonny Gray if you're playing a bunch of lineups in high-risk contests, but for me, it really is the Twins bats in that one. Moving into the next game here, we have Shane McClanahan and the Tampa Bay Rays taking on Christian Javier and the Astros. Checking over to the pitcher page. So we see Javier floating around top 5, McClanahan floating around top 10. McClanahan, 26% K rate, holding opponents to a 289 WOBA. He's expensive, and Houston doesn't strike out all that much against lefties, so I don't know that we need to get to him here. He's a decent play. Kind of put him in the same category of a Sonny Gray, but a little bit more expensive and a little bit higher owned. So he's good. Not going to fault anyone for wanting to roster him here, but for me, he's really just not a priority. On the other side, we see Javier kind of popping. A little bit surprised by this just because Tampa is so dangerous. But yeah, I mean, Rays have a big ISO against righties. Javier has been very much inconsistent, but you're getting that upside at a discounted price, so I don't mind him. Again, this is another option I think on a smaller slate I'd be talking up a lot more. I'd have a lot more interest in, but on a 14-gamer like this, I think the matchup is enough for me to mostly stay off him. Same with McClanahan. So this is one of those spots where it's kind of a wash, for lack of a better term. McClanahan wouldn't fault you for rostering him. probably not going to get the Houston bats. Javier, wouldn't fault you for rostering him. I actually might consider getting some Tampa Bay bats, but really the game's just not something I think we need to dig too deep on. We have 13 others to discuss. Next game here, we have Drew Smyly and the Chicago Cubs taking on Jordan Montgomery and the St. Louis Cardinals. So Drew Smyly, mediocre lefty, which means we will be looking to Cardinals bats here. Anytime you get the Cardinals against a mediocre lefty, they certainly have to be considered. Goldschmidt, Arenado, Contreras got hurt with the backswing last night. If he's back in the lineup, he'll look good here. But really, any of the righties are going to look exceptional. We see St. Louis ranking 4th in OF Index, 2nd in Team ISO, 4th in Team WOBA. The team total isn't even on the board yet, but they're still already drawing a lot of ownership. So just keep an eye on them. They could be very chalky here, but I cannot lie. I really, really do like their upside. On the other side, Jordan Montgomery, he's looked decent at times, but this Cubs offense has been really hot lately. I think I'd rather get to the Cubs bats. They are 6th in OF Index, 9th in Team ISO, big upside. And yeah, Montgomery probably the better arm in this matchup. Battle of lefties here. St. Louis the better lineup against lefties. But at the same time, I would much rather get to the bats than I would the arms. So I'm going to go ahead and list the Cardinals as a top stack. For Smyly, mediocre LHP. And then the Cubs versus Monty, they are boom or bust, high risk only. I think you could play Cardinals in low risk contests. Wouldn't really be rushing to the Cubs in low risk, but they both look excellent in high risk. No interest in the arms there, though. Moving into the next game where I really don't have much interest in the arms, we have JP Sears and the Oakland Athletics taking on Kyle Freeland and the Colorado Rockies. This is a Coors Field game. We see the Rockies popping 2nd in OF Index. We see the Athletics popping 5th. Both teams look excellent. Both are very much affordable. Another matchup of lefties here. Sears has a pretty high K rate, but he also allows a lot of power. 216 ISO, a lot of right-handed hitters. So load up on those Rockies, righties, and cores. Really not seeing a ton of ownership on them yet. So tough not to like them there. And then we got the A's on the other side. Freeland can look good at times, but he does mostly pitch to contact. These Oakland Athletics are a little bit cheaper than they should be on both sites. So you get that Coors upside at a discount in terms of both price and ownership. So I really do like bats from both sides in this one. So no real surprise. We like the Rockies for Sears. Sears in Coors. And we like the A's versus Freeland in Coors. In both instances, we're favoring the right-handed hitters, but that should be fairly self-explanatory. But really do like those spots in Coors, especially if that aggregate ownership stays south of around 30% on both sides. Moving into the next game on the board here, I'm just a little bit taken back by something I'm seeing right now. So I see the Mets are coming in at massive, massive ownership. I don't know that I remember to list them against Mackenzie Gore. I mentioned that I liked Gore's upside in high-risk contests, but I probably wouldn't roster him. But I do respect him enough not to get to Mets bats, but I'm catching myself right now. If they're going to be 100% aggregate, I think we have to consider them. Power upside versus Gore. But I will say they're probably over-owned. So just want to make note of that before I forget to. Looking through the ownership on these stacks, that definitely stood out to me. So moving into the next game here, we have Dane Dunning and the Texas Rangers taking on Joe Musgrove and the San Diego Padres. Dunning, bad matchup, little to no K upside. He's looked decent at times, but against the Padres here, I have no interest. Joe Musgrove on the other side, talented arm. He has been pretty good this year, sub 10K on both sides. Not a good matchup against Texas by any stretch, but he has a 25% K rate. So I do think Musgrove is fine as a boomer bust option. So bad matchup, but high ceiling. And then on the other side, I really do like Padres bats versus Dunning. Clear upside. And let me just check the stack model to see where the Padres are coming in, because I don't think they're, yeah, just outside the top 10. I mean, we got them 3rd in WOBA, 8th in team total, 11th in OF Index. Not as much power in this lineup as you might expect against Dunning, but I do still like them here. Don't mind Musgrove. Probably wouldn't be rushing to him. Just a tough matchup against Texas, but he's talented enough for me to want to avoid mostly rostering Texas bats this evening. Moving into the next game on the slate, we have Logan Gilbert and the Seattle Mariners taking on Tommy Henry and the Arizona Diamondbacks. So Henry's been a lot better lately, I will say that, but he still has a sub 20% K rate, so I don't really have much interest in him as an arm. No surprise that he's not really popping in the model. Then Logan Gilbert, really talented arm, but a really bad matchup. He's got upside here. Kind of concerned he's going to allow some power, but this is another spot where I kind of consider it a wash. I respect Gilbert enough not to want to get to D-backs bats. They're going to be pretty expensive. Then on the other side, Henry has been pretty good. The Mariners' offense has been kind of inconsistent, for lack of a better word, so there's just not much from this game I really think we have to consider a priority. Moving into the next game, we have Brandon Williamson and the Cincinnati Reds, who has been improving but allowing a lot of power to right-handed hitters, and Bobby Miller on the other side taking on the Reds. And yeah, Cincinnati's just outside the top 10 in stack rating, so we'll talk about them in a moment, but we also have the Dodgers as the #1 team on the board. Williamson, like I said, allowing a lot of power to right-handed hitters. I started talking about Mookie Betts to open the video. Love him here. Will Smith as well. Maybe we see Rosario debut tonight. I don't know about that. But yeah, if Rosario's in there as a righty, he makes some sense as well. Probably comes in cheap. But this whole offense has upside in this matchup, particularly the right-handed hitters. So I'm going to be loading up on Betts, Smith, and Martinez if he's in the lineup. And I'm pretty surprised to see the Dodgers are only 24% owned aggregate on DK, just 16 on FanDuel. So excellent spot here to stack the Dodgers. Underowned versus Williamson. Favor right-handed hitters. Top stack. So love the Dodgers. Definitely want to have a lot of exposure to them in this matchup. Then on the other side, like I said, we also get the Reds against Miller. Certainly riskier, but they're kind of boom bust. Nice high upside play versus Miller. So really like the bats in that game. Have zero interest in the arms. Moving into the last game on the board, we have Cutter Crawford and the Boston Red Sox taking on Logan Webb and the San Francisco Giants. So Crawford, I don't love him here, but we're really lacking value. He's only 6,500 over on DK, 7,200 over on FanDuel. That's just cheap enough for me to consider him, even if he doesn't have some sort of massive game. I think we can look to Crawford in a decent spot against the Giants. Just decent value, high risk, I'll call him. Yeah, he's just kind of a product of the slate. I mean, we have so many arms in that 8 to 10K range, really lacking quality value below it. So I do like Crawford off that enough. I do like Crawford mostly just because of his price, but at the same time, he's certainly a risky play. Then we have Logan Webb on the other side. A bad matchup for him, but 25% K rate on the season, holding opponents to a 300 WOBA. So yeah, he's popping second in the model. I do think he's worth mentioning here, but in the bad matchup, I don't know that I want to call him a priority. High risk, but high upside. So I do like Webb. Then just checking the stack model to see if we're seeing Boston or San Fran here before I just glaze over them. But yeah, neither are popping in the top half of the model, so we can kind of skip over those bats for now. So let's do the recap here. Starting with pitchers, Gausman, excellent option here against LA. Obviously, he has to navigate around Ohtani, but the rest of that lineup's relatively soft right now. Garrett Cole, tough spot against Baltimore. Really do like his upside, though. Riskier than one Zach Wheeler, who we'll talk about next. Really do like his ceiling. He's excellent everywhere. Sonny Gray versus KC, high risk. Very much boomer bust and inconsistent. Joe Musgrove versus Texas, bad matchup but high ceiling. Probably won't get to a ton of him, but he's certainly in play at reasonable ownership. Then Mitch Keller, a similar option. Cutter Crawford, not crazy about him, but he's cheap enough to consider here against Boston. Just really lacking value on this slate. And then Logan Webb towards the top half. I'd probably rather get to Gausman, Wheeler, or even Cole, but if he's going to be much lower owned, then I'd consider him. Then clicking over to stacks, just to recap, sorting by OF index. So we get the Dodgers Brewers at the top. It looks like they're under-owned against Williamson and the Reds today. Favor the right-handed hitters. Probably the best stack on the board. Reds are boom bust against Miller. Do like their upside, though, at reasonable ownership. The top bets are expensive, though. Cardinals against Smiley. Anytime you get the Cardinals against a mediocre lefty, they look excellent. Padres for Stunning look good to me. Mets have power upside versus Gore. They're over-owned, though, so maybe get away from them in your larger field tournaments. The Cubs against Montgomery are boomer bust, but high risk. And then we have the Rockies and A's and Coors, both a little bit cheaper than they should be. And they're pretty low owned. If they become popular throughout the day, I'd be more comfortable getting away from them. But at cheap prices and low ownership, I do like the upside for both those offenses and Coors against left-handed pitching. The Twins look great here against Singer, who's been pretty much terrible for most of the season. Guardians are boom bust here against Tuki Tasan and the Chicago bullpen. Yankees against G-Rod, who has been inconsistent. Then the Braves against Hauser. Keep an eye on the model. If they do climb throughout the day, I'd be more comfortable getting to them. So once again, my name's Nick Marro. This could be the last MLB video of the year. If it is, just want to thank everyone once again. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you all soon. Take care and good luck.